Welcome to the Drupal usability meeting on June the 26th, 2026. The today's attendees are Thomas Howell and myself, Ralph Koller. And we are currently looking at issue number 3588144, expose context-sensitive help about any relevant CLI commands. Um, I have to admit, that issue I've looked at when it got created about uh, about 3 weeks ago, and it got added I got a heads up in the Drupal Slack that this issue basically needs a usability review, and my initial thought was basically it is that the thought that is the idea is that it should add a uh, menu block to the sidebar that is similar to basically the advanced toolbar. If you remember, there you would are also able to basically trigger, for example, clear caches and other functionality. And that was my understanding at first, but I've only skimmed it and don't want to read before. But the issue got closed after Derek posted a few points against it, and Ifrik, who created the issue, made a clarification in comment number 8 that her suggestion was basically I would just like to see individual relevant commands shown as information in the UI. So basically as a heads up that you are able to see the maintenance mode could be triggered in the terminal with dr and then mset. Because with Drupal 11.4 and in the main branch, since a few days or weeks, the initial implementation is in, and you are now able to ddef drcr. So without brush, you're able to clear caches at the moment. So that is in core right now. And all the other functionality, all the important ones, like for example, update database, site install, enable or disable modules will all go into core under that DR functionality. And the suggestion for that one is basically to surface to the user that those commands are also basically triggerable via the terminal.
So I have one possible suggestion around this. Um, I've seen a pattern where something like this is toggleable under an advanced features for configuring administration features. So essentially, if you check a flag, it makes these things visible in every location where they should exist. So the pattern is you include this, it's hidden by default, but for power users, you can make these things visible by enabling that. Um, so it gives you the capacity to not overly increase the complexity of what people have to read in every
Yeah.
section unless they want it. So I concur that this type of thing is very, very useful because it makes anyone who has to maintain lots of sites, this makes it very clear as they are getting used to maintaining a lot of sites, you can do this. Then they can hide it so that it's just not making it's not showing up all the time.
Yep.
And whether or not you default it on or off, I suspect the the oh gosh, there were some people who used to come who built the admin themes and stuff like that. They may have opinions as to whether or not it should start off enabled or not, but I think the pattern makes sense, um, because it also puts these things with each of the appropriate modules. Um,
Yeah,
so you know that it exists. When you see this in these places, you know this is a possibility, rather than one of the biggest challenges for the transition from basic user to power user being you don't even know what you don't know. You don't know
yeah,
that this exists.
you don't. What you don't know. Yeah, completely agree. And and uh, what is the name in Schmunzeln? What's that?
I,
I
I can go one,
smirked.
I can also go one step further on all of this, Ralph. I would argue we could even have it would be nice to have the ability to flag all of the, so like where it says use maintenance mode to da da da, like why is it that you can't turn that off and do to put an advanced site with an advanced user into like streamline admin mode, so
Yeah,
that you're hiding a lot of, like, if they know what they're doing, make it so that they can easily use it on a cell phone by getting rid of all of the noise that they don't need.
yeah. That is basically yeah. I already. What's the term? Is it called smirked or smiled benignly? Benignly. Um, while you're suggesting, because it is basically the thing I wanted to suggest. Basically, it's um, to introduce on a, if you go on here and view your profile, at the moment you have just your profile. But the thought already is to add another local task for accessibility. But there could be another local task for basically general settings in context of that kind of information. You could
Yeah,
do for one a setting for that DR command or the DR commands in context
yeah,
available to a user. And I agree with the you don't know what you don't know. Per default, it should be shown so
yeah,
people know it is there and power users can still disable it.
yep,
And same for basically descriptions.
yeah,
Descriptions could either be completely hidden or you could add the option instead the option of having some sort of information icon afterwards that is focusable, and if you tap it you get a pop-up with the description in it, so it is still accessible but it doesn't take up that much of space. And also same with that information button, you could simply do the same for something like a glossary so that you have I'm not sure about the technicalities. I'm not sure how to solve it, but also to have the option of, for example, a what's you have basically that HTML elements for abbreviations that you basically, if you hover over something, you get the long form. But the same you could do for a actual long form, what, for example, maintenance mode or
yeah,
real Drupalisms, a node. And if you hover over it, you get basically the glossary, the definition. What is a node?
yeah. So I've run into personal problems with things like tooltips and hover over, because whenever you're on mobile devices or you are um, in a scenario where you've got a very small screen space, like a very small laptop, like think of MacBook Air or a laptop that you carry around in the field for any purpose, whether you're doing like surveying or whatever it is you want to do, you're in a car. Um, uh, you have to tab through all of those. Oh, and it like but again, like these could even be options. And I
Yeah,
guess it could start as a contrib change. Um, but I could see great value, like streamlining what an administrator has to see. Because I've always wondered, like, why do I have to go through the same stuff over and over and over again when I'm not reading any of it and I'm just trying, like, once you're an expert at Drupal, you're like for your context. And I think that the nice thing is, um, you've suggested putting it in the hands of the actual individual. So you could
yeah,
have two or three administrators on a site, and you're the junior administrator and I'm the senior administrator. I can turn it off for me. You can leave it
yeah,
on for you until you understand.
exactly. So it's basically, or you, and I mean, the point I made, make it a two-step thing in context of, for example, descriptions is you could always forget what basically a that one means put site into maintenance mode. It's a bad example because it's self-explanatory, but if you have a
Yeah,
checkbox label that is not self-explanatory at all, and you aren't in that context of that module or feature that often, and you're unsure, having that fallback that you don't have to go into your user and you have to go and enable it and then go back. Having basically the option, I'm forgetful person, for example, and I want to have the option always right at my hand. Having basically that info button or something like that that
yeah,
pops up the thing in context would be helpful. Or if you're completely air quotes power user and you don't need it at all, you can switch it completely off.
yeah. But I think as a pattern, what you've also identified is why limit this to the administration, right? Like, why not allow people to have content that can be user bypassed. So I've got a website, I've created a web portal for my company, and I want to
Hmm.
let people streamline it. Like, to me, that seems like a function that goes beyond just the administration of a site. Um, it's something, and again, like you can even have two different modes of hiding it. You can have the hidden mode where it's still kind of loading it in the background, and then the second mode is it doesn't load it at all. So you're reducing the total overall load on a site
Yep.
because you're not transmitting any of that HTML. It allows you to actually intelligently hide all of the stuff that you need in the beginning.
Yep.
So I, I think you're onto something. I like this. I'd be very curious to hear what the others had to say around this.
Yep.
Um, but I get that you can Google these things. Or actually, you really can't anymore because unless you set up to not go to AI, it's going to throw you at AI first. But that these things are searchable concepts. But it feels like if we're truly trying to improve this, you want to have the information that a beginner needs, a beginning administrator, a beginning site builder needs in context initially until they don't need it anymore.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
in context till they don't need it anymore. So what's the name for if on the bicycle, if you're on the side, the two
Training
small
wheels, I
training
think.
wheels, yeah. Until
Yes.
they can put off the training wheels.
Yep.
Um
And you could even call this project training wheels.
It's a good module name.
Um, but I mean, I really like this conceptually because that's also been one of the things is like because I've shown people Drupal before and they're like, well, why does it have all of this explanation? I'm like, well, because you really need this explanation when you're starting. But they're like, well, what happens if I've been using this for 5 years? Why is this still showing up? I'm like, I don't know. Because it does.
Yeah. But it's basically visual clutter and an
Yes.
information overload.
Yes.
You
And
phase it out.
And I imagine for accessibility, this is like for someone who's an advanced user who has accessibility issues, this becomes overwhelming to have to go through all of these unnecessary things to get to what you need to be on the page.
Yeah, I am affected from that, basically. And I don't consider myself a power user, but still, I'm cognitively overwhelmed by
Mm.
that, and I'm unable to read. I'm only skimming in parts, and that's why. But
So, so project training wheels
object.
may be viewed as uh, an accessibility issue. It's addressing an accessibility issue as well as documentation. And if you brought it back to help, like let's save this, I would start here. I think it's a completely off topic other issue, but it leaves open the door in the future to to say things like we want to change how help works so that like you could in help create a dictionary of those sections. So like all of those commands that you were pointing to, if you've now identified those structurally throughout the site in
Mhm.
admin, how hard is it to add a command overview section below module overviews that just lists all of those commands?
Moment, 1 second. Command, it's a good point. Command overview section in help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And um, that is also another point. So the project training wheels could have basically the Drupal CLI commands in context,
Hmm.
the descriptions. I think the help text I would keep.
Hmm.
I wouldn't phase them out, but as Drupal CI commands, descriptions, and glossary in context
Hmm.
would be the three examples. But the point is, another thing to think about is, would it, that's, it's just a wild ideation, but would it make sense? Because those topics, from my perspective, I've considered them, or they aren't precisely that, but I've considered having some sort of top tasks and the explanations of top tasks useful. And if basically, again, wild ideation, if you have, where is it, development under performance, if you're in context on a page, um, having again the option in under on your user profile to again either show,
Hmm.
hide, or completely phase out um, the explanations for the top task on the page,
Yeah.
meaning clear caches button to what is clear caches doing, what is caching, what are the implications. For
Hmm.
some people, basically the description, this is used as value for max age in cache control headers. If you're a non-technical user, this isn't telling you anything.
Yes.
And you don't know what the implications if I pick 3 minutes or if I pick 12 hours. I have no idea. And again, with the training wheels analogy, for people that know that, having in context more verbose explanations that go past a description might be helpful.
Yeah. It opens the door to different choices. I think the why I call it like project rather than just an individual. Like to me, this is potentially larger because you'd want to review the entire Drupal application and make those changes everywhere. Like you'd want to review every single page and determine is this a page that could use that improved verbosity.
Yeah.
And I think there's choices here. Like I would love to get other opinions and things like. Do you want to have a mode that lets you leave them in place as a tooltip, like a question mark tooltip that you can hover over and access? Do you want to give the choice of just removing it entirely so there's no noise,
Yeah, and there
etc.?
should be both. But also then there's the question. The problem is basically if you have someone who has Drupal CLI commands active, someone who has the descriptions as tooltip active, and someone who has glossary as tooltip active, and let's say you have the top task as well as tooltips active, how to distinguish the tooltip for descriptions from glossary and top task. They would be, they would have to be different ones. Otherwise, they are masked
Yeah.
objects. That's a tricky part then.
But I think that it's the type of thing that's very difficult to hypothesize right now. I think we would need to figure out the order of operations, like what you would want to work on first, and then like a proof of concept where you took like a small section and you said, okay, what happens if I've got this thing done to that section? Sort of like what you see here, like what would each of the different modes look like?
Yeah. But basically, how to get that thing in is that the good thing is that the Drupal CI working group is basically pretty active and has momentum. And if the general concept sounds viable and we can basically agree on a certain recommendation, then it could first go into in the form of that Drupal CLI command and the functionality that you basically simply add a local task for that visibility in here, and that only contains the settings for Drupal CI for now.
Yeah,
And if that works out and gets ironed out, then could the next step be expand it to descriptions, apply the same pattern that got introduced for the Drupal CI for descriptions as well.
yeah. So you basically you're breaking it down horizontally rather than
Yeah,
vertically. Yeah. And you're not attaching it to one big project of its own. You're leveraging other projects initially,
yeah,
um, and then once that's in place, you make the case for additional functionality. So um, you start with a horizontal of the CLI, then you do a vertical implementation of, okay, how do we create the plumbing to hide that under these different circumstances, like, and then you can make that configuration available to the individual user. I mean, I've always wondered why the individual user pages were so bare. Like
yeah.
there's so few controls over user experience. Like we manage everything from a permissions perspective. We have a permissioning system, but we don't actually do much from a user perspective.
You only have that profile module, but that
Yeah.
is not that actively maintained, I guess.
Yes. And I mean, like, it was doing something a bit tangential.
Yeah.
I used
But
it back in the day.
1 second, is it Eve? DDEV site, EFE DDEV site. Just 1 second. DDEV composer require Drupal to 5.0.x. Ah, 1 second. I have one module to Drupal. Uh, DDEV composer require. Come on. Oh no, shit. I'm unable to demonstrate it quickly right now. Oh, crap. I just had a skip to module. It's already a few weeks, a month old, where I've worked because it's in a sub. It's in a merge request, and it's at the moment too tricky to set up. But I've created basically a for that module a local task underneath the user profile page, just to illustrate how it would look like.
Yeah.
Um, Pity. Crap. Anyway, yeah, but I think yeah, we've extended the scope quite significantly.
I mean, I think like the short-term answer is go with the CLI, do that work, include it. And if if there's pushback on your adding this stuff, this content, then the next step is the broader feature that we've discussed. So it is a new feature request.
But I think I would definitely, even though the scope should be just for the Drupal CI, but I would already voice the broader scope we've envisioned.
Sure.
So,
Uh,
because otherwise it might be a bit, sounds like an overkill to add that many complexity just for some help text block.
I mean, and you could suggest that rather than it just being there, it starts off as a tooltip, just to get it in there. I don't
Yeah,
know. Um, uh, there are pros and cons to that. I think keeping it simple, maybe my brain is channeling um, Benji, but where we can keep our recommendations simple makes the most sense.
yeah, but definitely just having a help text block alone wouldn't do it from my perspective, because you have also the problem with how do screen reader users discover basically that help text that could easily go unnoticed that way if it's just a block of text that isn't focusable. Um, so yeah, with the tooltip or a button or something like that, you've mentioned might be necessary. And because again, who reads the help text necessarily?
Well, the I think that's a bigger problem than we can solve today. Like I think that right now, focusing solely on this issue,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
no, but I meant basically if you have already help text and you append simply another bit of text,
yeah,
the odds that someone reads the help text itself already are low, and then reading that additional block again low if it isn't in some way visually highlighted.
yeah. But you could make it visually different in some way. Um, Again, like I don't know what that does for screen readers. I don't know if that visual differentiation. Um, but I mean, you could make that italicized. You could set it aside. You could tab it in. Um,
That doesn't make a difference for a screen reader.
yeah,
You would need something, basically a semantic markup that
yeah.
says this is an important information, something like that. Or a region even, I'm not sure. But for a region, as a region for a single block might be problematic and overkill. Hmm. I think we'll revisit this issue simply next week or so if Benji and others are here as well, because we are already at the top of the hour. So
Yeah, I know. And I have to jet, unfortunately.
don't be sorry. Thank you for coming
Of course.
and
Um,
was helpful today and productive.
yeah. Thank you very, very much, Ralph. And I look forward to future meetings. And I look forward to others being here as well. So
Yep.
thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thanks you as well. Likewise, and have a relaxed weekend.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.